Alrighty, so I'm excited this morning. It's been a week, and so I feel really honored that Jeff asked me to kind of be here and speak in front of you guys today. Because I just look at myself, I'm like, I'm only 25 and still have a lot of life to experience, and here I am, delivering a message to you guys. So Jeff, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. So he gave me a topic. Kind of the run with that goes with the series. And so what we're going to be discussing today is how does faith face an uncertain future, right? So this is going to get really real really quick, so just bear with me. Let's just kind of be honest with ourselves real quick of how the past 2 years have been. We've been on a lot of uncertain times, right? The number one thing is COVID, right? That was something that hit us out of nowhere, right? And then just think of all the conversations you had with people you know, and then even people you don't. That's like the first talking point because it's such a crazy thing. But during those 2 years, we're living like a day-by-day life of like, what's next in the future, right? What's gonna happen? We look back 2 years, like, did we think we were gonna be back at this spot? We didn't know. It was all uncertain, right? We even look at what else happened in the country, right? We had all those riots throughout the cities, right? There was natural disasters that happened. There were buildings that collapsed, those apartment stuff. There was huge murder cases the past 2 years, missing people that really shook the nation. I'm gonna say it right now, I even dread saying it, political division. You say politics in church or politics anywhere, right? You almost get a little, you tense up. It's a heavy discussion, but more so than ever, we're very divided, right? And so with all that being said, it really leaves us with an uncertain future. And then the most prominent thing that we're dealing with right now with Russia and Ukraine, right? We're in a situation, we don't know what's gonna happen next, right? But those are all like worldly issues. And those are like on a huge grander scale, but an uncertain future can also come from on like more of a personal level, right? And still it's just as impactful stuff. Some people, they're like, how am I gonna pay my bills? Some people have the fear of the future of how am I going to repair my marriage or repair a friendship. You just look where, we were having such good times and you had a falling out with somebody. How can we get back to where we were and be better off, right? For some people, it's school, right? When I was back in college, like, how am I going to pass this exam? I probably studied a lot less than I should have, right? And, but it was, full disclosure, I used to get real anxious before a test. It would ruin my day because I was like, I just got to get this test over with, right? Some people, it's how do I improve my health, right? For me, I was going through a period with a lot of concussions, and not that I can remember much of what was happening during those times, but it was more, what's my future going to look like? What are the repercussions that I'm going to have in the future, health-wise, right? It's all these unknowns. Some people, it's, how am I just going to get through this day, right? That day-by-day basis. And then in other times, I'll be honest with you guys, my deepest fear is, will I be disappointed in my future self, right? You kind of got to look of, who am I going to be 40 years from now? Who am I going to be in 10 years from now? My deepest fear is I'm going to look back like, man, I was so focused on the future and the what-ifs in life, but I missed where I was right now. And then those are some pretty heavy stuff, but then it can be even minor, right? So even asking this message, telling you this message today, right? Jeff asked me, I felt very honored, and at first I was really nervous to give it. Then I mustered up some courage to be like, all right, I got this. I've done a lot of public speaking. I have no fear of public speaking, but I had a fear of making sure I was doing justice by you all, right? Living up to your guys' expectations. And then Jeff, you guys probably forgot, it really stuck with me was when he ended his message last week, he was like, oh, Luke's gonna bring it, probably the most important message in the series. He's gonna do phenomenal. And I know he was encouraging me, but meanwhile, I'm up in the balcony and I just have my head down in my hand. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And it bugged me so bad throughout the week because I was so afraid. And how ironic, the message is having fear of the future, and I was terrified to give this message today. So much so, I didn't get stuff on paper till Saturday. So who knows what's gonna kind of happen with this message. So bear with me. We don't know what's gonna go on. I surely don't know. But also with that being said, show me grace because I'm not Jeff, nor am I trying to be. He's a great teacher. I hear my nephew. I just love him. Sorry, he's so cute. Nor am I trying to be. I'm just here to give you kind of a simplistic view of like where we're at. I want to be true to who I am, right? So, that being said, full disclosure, we're all on the same page. We're all in this together. Buckle up. We're going to talk about how does faith face an uncertain future, right? So I look at ways in my life to kind of relate this, like when in my life did I have an uncertain future? And I'm going to put a little disclaimer out there. My dad's a good father. So I might tell some stories. You might look at him like, what was he thinking? But he's a great dad. So I love you. All right. Just gotta say it. So I look back, and when I was about 13 years old, my dad took me elk hunting out west, out Idaho. Right. So I was probably like Josh's age, and if not younger, right? And so we go out there and do some elk hunting. And so we were hunting all day, and we reached a certain point, and my dad looks at me and was like, all right, I want to go put on a drive. In case you don't hunt, a drive means he's going to go kind of loop around, going through some wooded area and try to push wildlife towards me. He's like, I'll be back in a few hours. I'm 13 years old. I'm in Sawtooth, Idaho. That name just sounds hard, right? You're like, this is for like the nitty gritty cowboys of like the Wild West. And here I am at 13 years old, and I'm in Sawtooth, Idaho. This place has the most dense population of wolves and mountain lion. And my dad's like, I'll be back in a few hours trying to push wildlife towards me. I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna be pushing my way, nor do I want to see it. But this was the best part. He was like, if I don't come back, shoot 3 times in the air, somebody, not him, somebody will come get you. So I'm there holding my gun. I'm like, I'm not going to say no to him. I mean, there he left. And so I'm left on this hillside in Idaho. I have no map, no GPS. I have a compass. I don't even know how to use it at the time. And I'm out there petrified of like, is my dad going to come back for me? Because I don't know. And so when I was a little kid, I was a little chunkier fellow. And so I'm sitting on that hillside. I'm like, man, I'm looking like a full snack for some mountain lion, right? So I was left afraid. And lo and behold, nothing came except my dad a few hours later, sure enough, before it got dark, he came out of the woods, right? So I made it here. Mom didn't find out about this story until the past like 2 years. So she didn't know about that one for a while. I didn't know how bad it was until we actually discussed it. So we look at the Bible though, and the book is filled with a ton of wisdom and a ton of ways we can relate it back to our lives, right? That's Jeff's message, is like, how do I take this book and apply it to my life, right? And so we look at examples of, with an uncertain future, what do we need? Courage, right? So one of the first people that you kind of think about who had great courage in the Bible is Daniel, one of the old prophets. So we want to talk about how Daniel had courage, right? So to kind of understand a little bit about him, in case you don't know, I want to kind of tell you, his story, right? So I think the best way to do it is start from chapter 1 of Daniel, and we're going to read the whole book. And Jeff says, you guys are good for long-winded messages. And you're on my time now. And so we're going to start line by line, word for word. No, I'm just messing. I want to give you a brief synopsis on Daniel and his life, just to kind of give you an idea of like, who is this man that we're talking about. So one thing we got to understand about Daniel is we also have to understand the state of Israel at the time, right? So we kind of start with Daniel, and Israel has recently been conquered by the Babylonians and King Nebuchadnezzar, and their temple is destroyed, right? This is like the huge, where their faith, their religion, their like everything is built around this temple. Is like, that was their place to reach God, right? And so during this time of Babylonian rule, they're going through like a cultural purge. And so with this, King Nebuchadnezzar had this, we'll call it a training program. I don't know what better words, but it was to help conform Israelite men to Babylonian culture and there would be like the new example of this hybrid, like the kind of like get rid of their foundation, right? And Daniel was part of this training program. And what they did was they picked the most good-looking guy. So I guess Daniel, he had it going on, like Chris Hemsworth at the time. He was also one of the wisest too, and so they got indoctrinated into this program and a few others, right? And so during this program, a lot of things that happened, but one of the things was to partake in the king's food. And during this time, Daniel actually denied the king's portion, right? He basically denied a king. It was through the program, but that was very honorable, and he went a round way of doing it. He used his wisdom to kind of like, hey, here's an alternative way, but still having the courage to have faith in like not eating the king's food and keeping on a plant-based diet. So I think at this point we're sponsored by plant-based options, known off of Jeff's messages. So I had to mention at least once. So that's what he did. Daniel was also known for deciphering dreams, which included telling the king of Babylon that you have dishonored God Almighty and you will dwell with the animals. And that also included him telling his son that you have dishonored God and your reign will come to an end. So this man literally had the courage to tell a king that you're going to go insane and then tell his son that you will die and your kingdom will fall. You talk about having some courage, right? So he's a pretty powerful guy. And then later, Israel was taken over by the Persian Empire, the fall of the Babylonians, right? Just like his dream and vision that they saw, right? Later, Israel became part of the Persian Empire and under a new foreign reign by King Darius at the time. And during this time, Daniel became very well known because he was an advisor to the Babylonians as well, because he was part of this program. He was known for his wisdom and his deciphering. So he was part of this group of one of three men. They were like the conduits of Israel for the Persians, right? And so it became very clear that Daniel was superior upon his peers. And so the king was like, befriended Daniel and was like, hey, I'm just going to let him run it. We don't need these other guys. They caught wind of it. So they conspired behind Daniel's back to whisper in the king's ear to issue a decree that no other god or other king, their name can be uttered, right? And so that meant Daniel could not pray. And they knew Daniel was a man of faith and that he was going to pray regardless. So they set him up. And so during his normal time, Daniel went to pray, and of course guards came in and arrested him, and he was thrown in the lion's den. So this man was then broke decrees. He had the courage, to deny a king, to tell a king that they will die, to break decrees, and now he's faced into a lion's den, and then he didn't even waver. Just think about a lion. Next story that I'm going to tell, I can't believe I'm telling this one at church. Again, my dad's a good father. So he's handling lions, right? When I was a kid, my dad took me raccoon hunting, a lot less extreme than hunting elk out west. And so I was just a little kid. And so we were running around the farm with our little flashlights looking for eyes in the tree because you had to hunt them at night, right? And so we were out there for hours. It was me, my cousin, my uncle, and my buddy at the time, and we couldn't find nothing. And finally, my dad's like, hey, I want them to shoot the gun, get some experience. So we set up by a big monkey ball tree. You've ever seen those green monkey balls? So we're sitting up there shooting at those, right? And so I'm still shining with my flashlight in hopes to find one, and I see these two emeralds in the tree, way up high. And I was like, I think that's one up there. And so I start saying that. My uncle's like, nah, those are just stars. It ain't nothing. My dad's like, nah, I think it's one. Finally, we approached it, and we saw it was this raccoon. It had to be the size of a small child. It was just massive, right? But you didn't realize how big it was until it came down out of the tree. Long story short, without the graphic details, that thing came out of the tree. My dad then handed me the gun. So I have the weapon to deal with this thing, and it's running at me, and I was like, oh, no, I want nothing to do this. So I start booking up the hill. My dad then grabs a stick, goes to hit this thing. I watched this raccoon sidestep, take a stick out of my dad's hands, and throw it. So you're talking about, we can't handle a simple little trash panda and little forest animal, and Daniel's out here dealing with lions. So My dad's like, give me the gun. Meanwhile, we're halfway up the hill. I was like, nah, I'm not going down there. It was me, my cousin, my friend. And we're like, you going down there? No, I'm not going down there. You going down? Nope. So we left my dad high and dry. We survived that ordeal too. Mom again found out about that later. So in short, let's just pull that all together. Daniel, right? A man who denied kings, told kings that their empire will fall, broke decrees, and spent a night with lions, right? And so that's been like one of Jeff's things with his message series is, right? We look at these great prophets and we look in the Bible, we see these great men and women in there, and we think to ourselves, how can I be like that, right? Is that even applicable to me? Because they do all these great feats. That's not like me. I'm just trying to get by day, right? I can't be like Daniel. I'm not facing lions. I'm just trying to, face giving a sermon on Sunday, right? But we're not going to talk about Daniel's highlight reels. We're going to talk about when he was actually afraid. This great man of courage was actually truly afraid at multiple points in his life, right? So as I mentioned before, Daniel was a man who had all these different visions and dreams. And so a lot of his dreams and visions that he had were in regards to the future of Israel. So and this transpired from the Babylonian rule all the way through the Persian rule. So it wasn't just like this happened one time. This was over years. And that's what shook Daniel, was this fear of the future, right? This great man of courage who stood up time and time again was actually afraid. Now, to me, that seems a lot more applicable. Like, I'm afraid all the time. A good friend of ours, we always mention Jeff Walters, right? He told me something that changed my life. He said, 3 seconds of courage can change your life. Just having the bravery for only 3 seconds, right? So we're going to look at Daniel's vision, right? So in Daniel 7, the first vision he had was the vision of the 4 beasts. And so I'm not going to go through all the visions, but I like this one because it kind of like sets the tone for the ones to come. So I'm going to read that, and before I do, I need somebody to help me out. And nobody better than Steve. So Steve, you mind getting up here for a second? All right, give a hand for Steve, first of all. Love this man. I'm glad you came. So,
I saw you texted me last night and never texted me back. Why?
Yeah, good. So, I was thinking I need a strong man, right? And so Steve works out. So this is about 35 pounds, right? I'll set that here. You would say you're pretty strong, right?
Compared to you, no.
No. I mean, come on, Steve, be honest. How many times do you work out a week? You be honest. 6, 7 times. Yeah, he's in great shape. So can you pick that up? Like, how many curls do you think you do? You probably do like 10 to 15, right?
Probably.
Right. That's some heavy weight. Yeah? I won't make you carry that weight. I do have this weight, however. It's 5 pounds, right? I mean, this is light. I could throw this around all day, right? This is lightweight. What would this do? Nothing, right?
No.
What I need you to do is, I still want you to pay attention, right? You're just more of a visual. Look, stand up here and looking cute. Yeah? So I want you to hold this, go like this, and as I want to just kind of talk about Daniel's vision. I just want you to stand there, pay attention, because I mean, this is just as applicable to you, right? But I just want you to hold that weight. Does it feel heavy? It's 5 pounds. No, it's pretty light.
You can get moving though.
Well, we'll see. No, I mean, we have nothing but time, Steve. Here, I'll even start timing you. I'll give you an extra, like 10 seconds? 10, 15?
Sure.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. We'll keep timing you. But you just tell me if, like, I want to start talking, right? No, straight out.
Oh,
straight out. It's only 5 pounds. You saw it. It's lightweight. Yeah, good form. You don't want to hurt your back. Hey, lower lumbar.
You almost got the kid killed twice that we know of.
There's been a lot more. All right, so Daniel 7. The vision of the 4 beasts, right? The first was like a lion. It had wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a human, right? That's just disturbing. And then what's even worse is it had the mind of a human. That's very grotesque, right? That was the first beast he saw. The second one he saw, which looked like a bear, raised up on one of its sides and had three. You good?
I'm fine.
I know you're fine. Yeah. Don't worry, we'll get there. And they had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, "Get up and eat your fill of flesh." I mean, these are morbid dreams, right? Third beast. After that I looked, and there before there was another beast, one that looked like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. The beast had 4 heads and was given authority to rule. And I have one more. You still good?
It's getting there, yeah.
No, hey, well, raise it up. All right, last beast, right?
Switch hands.
No. Keep straight. After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was the 4th beast, terrifying, frightening, and very powerful, and had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. So before I continue, that right there, that just shows you that wording, that it trampled whoever it came in front. That means it wasn't just like this quick little vision that he just saw something, right? This dream, this vision was elongated. He was there with it, experiencing this visually, right? This was something that was very intense, just as much intense as this. You're breaking a sweat? A little bit. Yeah, baby. I'm almost done. Hey, that was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Steve, appreciate it.
Is there a point?
We'll get there. Man, what a guy. Just came up here with no questions, was like, hey, I got you, brother. And I just respect, that's love in action right there. Oh. So, going back to it, right? He was experiencing this. So he was in, like, seeing this, not just for like a quick second. It wasn't just like a flash. Like, he was in this in a very intense way. And this was all in regards to the future of Israel, right? That's grim. What does it mean? And throughout this time, he had multiple visions like this, and he got deciphering from it from colleagues and even himself. But here, we're going to talk about how he described him afterwards, this great man of courage, right? You would think Daniel, this great man of courage, would be steadfast and strong. No. He wrote these books himself, and this is how he says, I, Daniel, he admitted, right, was worried. The vision that went through my mind frightened me. I, Daniel, was afraid. My face became white from fear. And that was Daniel 7:28. In Daniel 8, he had another vision. Afterwards, it says, I, Daniel, became very weak and sick for several days after the vision. After that, I got up and went back to work, but I was very upset from the vision because I did not understand what it meant. And that right there shows us a lot what we face. We just don't understand. Why? Why is this happening? What's going on? Right? What does my future hold? And then lastly, he also said, at the time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 full weeks. We can be afraid sometimes in a moment. Fear comes over a second, right? But sometimes fear lasts longer. 3 full weeks. He ate not rich food, nor wine or meat touched my lips. That's some intense fear, right? Kind of bringing you down on the every day where you couldn't eat. This great man of courage had fear like that. So, why is fear so detrimental? It's that uncertainty, right? And that uncertainty leads to anxiety. And all those like fear for the future. Jeff always talks about what is the opposite of love. And that's our goal, right? Is to love people, love God, love others. Simple as that. But what's the opposite? It's not hate. It never is, right? It's fear. And that's the purpose I really want to explain with Steve with this weight, right? It's light. It's only 5 pounds. It's not going to do much. I can carry this all day, right? But it's a slow burning. Like you said, Steve, it didn't feel heavy at first. The longer you hold it up there, the worse it got, right? The same thing starts with our thoughts of fear. If we don't take that thought captive, that was what was so important about Jeff's message a couple weeks ago, was retraining our mind, if not taking those thoughts captive. Because that one little thought will plant the seed, and it'll just get worse and worse and worse, right? Like the whole soundboard analogy of just like a little bit of feedback coming in, it starts going back and forth, because you ever just take a thought and it just starts running circles around your mind and you just can't stop, right? Perfect example was I was at the gym. And it's funny how our minds work, right? I'm just getting my workout in. I go to my machine and I look and somebody took all the weight off one side of my machine. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, who has the audacity to take my weight? I am on here, I'm trying to get my workout out, and then here is this kid, he's on the machine, headphones in, and just texting, and I saw that he was the one who took my weight. And I got so mad. I didn't like say anything out loud, but in my mind, I'm like running these scenarios. I'm like, this guy, he probably is, trying to one-up me. He's doing this and that. I'm running all these what-if scenarios that are not even true in my mind. And my mind is going rampant. And it finally took my buddy, who I haven't seen in months, walk through those doors, was like, Luke. And I was like, and right there, I was like, why am I getting mad? Right? I have no reason to. But just that's how our mind works. It just starts that spiraling effect if we just don't hold that thought captive. So Daniel's last vision, see if we're good on time, right? He mourned for 3 weeks, and then he had another vision that happened, right? And the people he was with instantly had this dread get over them, and they left. And it was just Daniel. And before him, he saw, in his vision, his body was like topaz, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of a burnished bronze, and his voice like the sound of a multitude. So with no context whatsoever, a man who's been having visions of all these grotesque and terrible things sees that, he's already set up for fear. Gazing at this great vision, I had no strength left. My face turned deathly pale, and I was helpless. And then a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. Right? And then it says, Daniel, the vision said to him, like the person, like this thing that he saw, spoke to him after it touched him, right? It said, Daniel, you who are highly esteemed, consider carefully with words what I'm about to speak to you. And stand up, for I have now been sent to you. And when he said this to me, I stood up trembling. He's still afraid, but he's still moved, right? I said to the one standing before me, Master, I'm upset and afraid because of the vision, and I feel very weak. And how can I, your servant, talk with you, my Lord? Right there, we always talk about these great people in the Bible. We're like, how can I be like that? This is Daniel, this great man we revere as a man of courage, is brought to his knees, trembling in fear, and then stands before God, who asked him and had the same spot that we have, that we live, like, who am I to live with courage? Who am I to do these great feats? Daniel asked the same question. And then it replied, do not be afraid. You who are highly esteemed, he said, peace, be strong now. Be strong. So that was God coming to him through his vision, right? And that's the thing. We're going to be faced with a lot of uncertainty in a lot of different situations. We're not designed to handle it alone, right? God will meet us where we are. He's never left. He's never changed, right? He's always been present. You always get in these topics of free will, right? And God's plan. And to me, you always wonder, how do I really decipher this? And to me, we have the free will to choose God. Because life is too hard sometimes, trying to do it by yourself. But resting in his grace and his peace, that everything will be all right, that's what's going to get you through the day-to-day, right? And God's going to be like, hey, It's okay. Don't worry about this thing. He wants you to choose him to be like, hey, live life with me, through me. Let's do this together. And so God will always meet us where we are. But just like anything, where's our focus at? Are we focusing on our fear? Or are we focusing on him? Jeff used this many years ago, and I've used it in a lot of different times I spoke. But it's an analogy about perspective. I can take a quarter, small little thing. Look at it, how much space it takes up in this room, hardly anything at all. But if I put it in front of my eye, it can block out the sun, and I won't be able to see anything. That's our fear. It is, in comparison to God, our fear is small. All we have to do is pull it away, right? Same thing with Stephen the weight, right? I told him to hold the weight. He didn't have to. I was representing the world, saying, hey, look at all this. Look at all this negativity. Look at your circumstance and hold this weight. Focus on that weight. And like every time he was just like, it is so hard, it is so draining, I just want to drop it. And here I'm telling him, don't drop it. No, hold on to that. That's what the world wants you to do. But the simple solution is to put down the weight. I kind of just want to leave with this. More of a redemption story for my father. Because he needs one. Thank you. I got you. And you talk about fear again, right? We were out hiking in Utah, and we did Angel's Landing. It was a very spontaneous trip. We did not plan it whatsoever. We probably were like, we're doing this, and a week later we were there, right? No plan. And so we saw all these pictures and videos of Angel's Landing, and we're like, we're strong and, we're in shape. This is nothing. Everybody's saying how hard it is. Psh, we got this, right? We start climbing. And so, and in case, I don't know if any of you have been there, it's all these switchbacks to the top, and we're like passing everybody. We're doing fine. I mean, it was very physically demanding. And then we get to the top. And so that wasn't Angel's Landing. So we hiked probably a couple miles up to the mountain, but Angel's Landing is only like 0.1 miles. And it's just this just sheer rock face. And your path is at some points only a few feet wide. And you just have mountain. It wasn't about how difficult and how physically demanding it was. It was the fear of falling is what prevented people from going, because everybody would get to the top, and then there was the point, like, you are now entering Angel's Landing. And most people would not cross into there. Most people just got to the top, saw how pretty it was, and then moved on. Very rarely were people actually climbing the landing. And so we kind of got to the point where we're looking at this monster of a beast. And we're like, well, we came all this way, let's do it. And so the beneficial thing was there was a chain, right? And you were able to hold that chain for so long, but then we eventually got to a part where there was no chain, and it was just you and the mountain, and we were on this slight slope, and it was all eroded away from the weather, and it's just sand on top. And your feet start slipping a little bit, and that first step, and you're just like, I have to cross this to get to the end, right? You talk about fear. My fear was falling. We just found out somebody died 2 weeks ago from doing it. Straight up and down. Right? And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't want to do this. My stomach dropped. That was the first time I had a fear of, like, surprisingly, of dying like that. Like, I've been in a lot of situations where I probably should have with my dad, but that was the first time I was like, man, I might die here, because I remember I took my first step and it was like slick as slick. And so I look at my dad, and he's dead in his tracks, right? And eventually he just starts moving inch by inch, paving the way. And I was like, man, I can't let my old man show me up like this. So I started falling in, but it's the same thing. God already paved the way. He shows what to do, but we don't have to do it alone. If I was by myself and my dad wasn't there, I wouldn't have done it. I would have turned away. And the victory we had at the end of seeing God's creation and getting to do that with my dad, that was priceless. That was worth overcoming my few seconds of fear. So I just want to encourage you today, friends, that whatever life throws at you, and we have a lot of uncertainty, our God's bigger, and you don't have to do it alone. Rest in his peace and his presence. Don't live life alone. Choose God first in your circumstances. Let's stand up and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that we just be gathered today here as family, and that we could just get to know you more. Because that's the thing that we're really striving for. We're not trying to have faith. We're trying to build a relationship. And relationships take time. And it's a slow process. And they're going to ever change. But with that, Father, we just want to rely on you more. And it's so hard that our own ego and our own drive to try to handle a situation by ourselves. But God, in reality, we should just be like, you first. Because right there, it sets the standard of our worth and what's really important in our lives. And at the end of the day, you're going to take care of the rest. So God, I thank you and praise you. Let's just pursue you in all things. Help us to love you more. Help us to love ourselves. And help us to love others. In Jesus' name, amen.